Hello and welcome to another episode of Plant Culture. In this episode we'll cover Charlemagne and his peaches. In this episode we'll cover the history of Carolinian cultivation of peaches, the various theories about how it happened, and how Charlemagne was involved in the whole process. In the Carolingian region of France, in the 9th century, Charlemagne the Frank became the first ruler of this empire. One scholar, Chris Wickham, he stated that it's likely that the overreach of state power and the extraction of various wealth inhibited the production of peaches, and until Charlemagne the Frank eased off, peaches were not grown that often. However, Christopher Lovelock has found that the archaeological record does not correspond to this narrative. The most likely situation is that, and so, Dr. Noah Bland studied the various literatures found, both in reference to the archaeological studies, as well as various historical documents, as well as the dig sites themselves alongside the historical writings themselves. And here's the results. In the early parts of the medieval Carolingian Empire, there's an increased cultivation and reliance on chestnut trees. This was because, although it had high startup labor costs, the costs were lighter in terms of maintenance due to the ease of harvest, ease of growth, and long lifespan of the tree itself. However, the cultivation of peaches is much more intensive and the trees last shorter amounts of time. This discouraged early Frankish growers from cultivating peaches. In the 8th century, however, Charlemagne the Frank began promoting the tree known as the peach quite heavily. And due to Charlemagne the Frank's power and influence, he was able to extract high amounts of organized labor from his dependents quite easily. And so what Charlemagne wanted, Charlemagne got, and so more peaches were grown within the area where Charlemagne ruled, shifting the importance of peaches from a marginal crop to a major crop. The aristocrats, being more educated in the sciences of agriculture than the peasant class at that time, began starting up different new regiments for managing the peach in order to improve the quality of the peaches produced by trees. Charlemagne also ordered the growing of peaches around the House of Legislation within the Carolingian Empire. Unfortunately, due to the limited knowledge of how management was done at that time period, we do not know what the management tools were for that farming at that time period. But amongst the crops grown around the villas, which was a site of lawmaking, include exotic plants like chestnut, peach, quince, and almond. Other documents such as the Bavarian Expla, which were a series of inventories and requests for plants, seem to suggest that such exotics were also purchased by various aristocrats within that society as well. It also lists other crops to be grown in that area, such as spelt, wheat, rye, barley, and oats, as well as beans and peas. Archaeobotanical evidence seems to show that within these gardens within the Carolingian Empire, spelt and barley were found in the highest abundance, with oats, wheat, and peas only found in the Anapis site, and rye only being found at the Chiassing site. Due to the mythological aspects of Charlemagne the Frank, due to the way he carried himself, many pieces of mythology became written surrounding his peaches, and many books were written about his peaches as well, and wrote about peach growing as well. One reference, for instance, seems to suggest that there's cold damage that happens with peaches, although it was opaque on what type of damage it was. There's also written about a strange time period where the buds of the tree were happening at the same time the fruit were growing, and times where the fruit were damaged in the summer when fruit failed to mature. Based on the proxy data found in the Greenland Ice Sheet Project 2, in the 2 years those phenomena were written about, evidence for 2 climate anomalies in the atmospheric conditions were found, indicating that abnormal climate fluctuations within that region may be the cause of those strange phenomena written about in those Carolingian books. The question of if Carolingian farmers had the ability to grow cultivated exotics such as peach is based on how much of the old agricultural knowledge from the ancient Roman Empire was retained within peasant culture and within the culture of the Frankish elites, based on the fact that some of the Frankish elites carried books by various historical figures within agricultural history within the ancient Roman Empire, such as Comella, Pliny, and Palladius. This is a possibility. As mentioned before, there's a lot of mythology surrounding Charlemagne's Peaches, including one story where the peach literally seduced a soldier into trying to eat it, while a magical guardian protected the peach, and the two did epic battles over the seductive peach. Yes, the Middle Ages were quite strange, but that's a digression. It was also written about within these various historical documents that different peach pits are associated with different climatic conditions, and that by planting specific peach pits, you'll get specific trees that have specific traits that are suited to different climates. So through careful practice of planting only specific seeds, a decent population of well-suited peaches could be adapted to the Carolingian climate. Interestingly enough, this technique has some reality in current breeding, with breeders using peach pits to determine the hardiness traits of different strains of peach, such as the Red Haven peach bred in Michigan and the Yellow Cling grown in Georgia. This is because smaller peaches were often more cold-hardy than larger peaches, and pit size correlates with the amount of flesh on a peach. Red Haven, for instance, can be grown in Michigan, but the fruits are very small, while large seeds are surrounded by a larger amount of flesh, which is very sweet, similar to the specimens found in Georgia. With this mechanism, the peach growers of that area could easily select for cold-hardy peaches just through selecting the smallest types of peach seed for growing. Now on to one final mystery before we conclude this video. The final mystery is, we know that most peaches cannot store for long periods of time. Peaches are very perishable, so the question is, how did they get there? The most likely way would be through Frisian merchants, which would be the fastest way to the Carolingian Empire, but still pushing the perishability limit on peaches. It was calculated it would take materials. They've calculated the various time periods it would take to send the fruit to the main hub of the Carolingian Empire, would be well exceeding the perishability limits of peaches, with one location taking about 15 days and the other taking 10 days. Others speculate that long-distance shipping could have happened using traditional preservation methods like drying, but this process would remove the seeds, leaving the pits found in the archaeological sites unexplained. Another written reference suggests that one can preserve whole fruit in honey to prevent spoilage, and current biochemical experiments have found that this process works well in preserving quince shelf lives due to its slowing of the fruit's respiration. Given that Columella described this in the ancient Roman Empire and the Roman elites had access to this, this is well within the realm of possibility, as the same chemistry applies to peaches. However, there's no written evidence of such methods being used in the early medieval times. As such, this explanation could be only considered speculation. Well, that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to me on BitChute for a greater variety of content, 4 videos a week. And thank you to all my subscribers on both platforms. I appreciate it.